The massive warship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling mountain. Its hull stretched for kilometers, blocking out the sun over major cities. Smaller escort vessels flanked it on all sides, their weapon systems glowing with deadly energy. The sight should have sent humanity into panic. Instead, something else happened. Admiral Zexkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist, watching the primitive blue planet below. His 4 arms crossed over his armored chest as he reviewed the intelligence reports one final time. Humans were a young species, barely 3 centuries into space travel. They had no energy shields, no plasma cannons, no faster-than-light weapons. Their largest warships were nothing more than metal shells filled with chemical explosives. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving transmissions from the planet's surface, multiple languages, but our translators are working." "Put it through," Zexkar commanded. His species, the Vorthak, had conquered 47 star systems. Each time, the pattern was the same. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept submission. It had never failed. The main screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be the humans' governing council. Zexkar had studied their files. They called themselves the United Nations, a collection of separate tribes that somehow worked together. Primitive, but it would make negotiations simpler. "People of Earth," Zexkar began in his most intimidating voice, "I am Admiral Zexkar of the Vorthak Empire. Your world now falls under Imperial rule. You have 1 rotation of your planet to surrender unconditionally, or we will demonstrate why resistance is futile." He expected fear. He expected begging. He expected the usual desperate offers of tribute and servitude that came from lesser species. Instead, something completely unexpected happened. The humans started laughing, not all of them at first. It began with one delegate, an elderly human male who covered his mouth as his shoulders shook. Then it spread to another and another. Within moments, the entire assembly was in various states of laughter. Some tried to maintain composure, but even they couldn't hide their grins. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered urgently, "perhaps their translation systems malfunctioned. They don't seem to understand the gravity of the situation." But Zexkar had conquered too many worlds to mistake incomprehension for amusement. These humans understood perfectly. They were laughing at him, at the Vorthak Empire, at the most powerful military force in this sector of the galaxy. The elderly human who had laughed first finally composed himself enough to speak. According to the display, his name was Secretary General Chen. "Admiral," he said, wiping tears from his eyes, "I'm sorry. It's just that this is remarkably similar to something that happened in our entertainment programs. The timing is almost too perfect." "Entertainment programs?" Zexkar's voice carried a dangerous edge. His honor guard shifted nervously behind him. "Science fiction," another human explained, a female with short gray hair. "Stories we tell about space travel and alien contact. Your approach is almost exactly what we've been expecting for decades. The threatening aliens, the demand for surrender, the overwhelming show of force. It's practically a cliché." The laughter began to die down, but the smiles remained. Zexkar felt something he hadn't experienced in years of conquest: uncertainty. "You find our military might amusing?" "Oh, we're not questioning your firepower," Secretary General Chen said, his tone becoming more serious but still carrying hints of mirth. "Your ships are impressive. Your technology is clearly advanced. It's just that you're doing this completely wrong." "Wrong?" The word came out as a growl. "You're treating this like every other species you've encountered," the gray-haired woman continued. "But humans aren't like other species. We don't respond well to threats. In fact, threats tend to have the opposite effect on us." As if to prove her point, reports began flooding in from across the planet. Instead of panic and chaos, human military bases were activating with calm efficiency. Their primitive nuclear weapons were being prepared not with desperate fear, but with what could only be described as professional interest. News broadcasts weren't showing terror, but rather excited discussions about first contact protocols and defensive strategies. "Your intelligence files are incomplete," Secretary General Chen continued. "You know about our technology, our military capabilities, our political structure, but you don't understand what makes us tick. You don't know our history." "Enlighten me," Zexkar said coldly, though his confidence was beginning to waver. "Humans have been fighting among ourselves for thousands of years." Another delegate spoke up, a younger man with an accent Zexkar's systems identified as Australian. "We've faced extinction events, plagues, wars that consumed entire continents. We've been threatened by everything from natural disasters to our own stupidity. And we're still here." "We've developed something you might not understand," Secretary General Chen added. "A stubborn streak. When someone tells us we can't do something, we tend to do it anyway. When someone threatens us, we don't roll over. We roll up our sleeves." The tactical display showed more concerning developments. Human spacecraft, primitive though they were moving into defensive positions. Their orbital installations were powering up weapon systems. Most worrying of all, they were coordinating these movements with the same casual efficiency they might use to organize a dinner party. "You're making a mistake," Zexkar warned. "Our weapons can reduce your entire planet to ash." "Probably," the Secretary General agreed. "But you came here to conquer us, not destroy us. Dead humans don't pay tribute or provide resources. You need us alive, which means you need us cooperative. And cooperation isn't something you can beat out of humans." Another delegate leaned forward, an older woman with steel in her eyes. "Admiral, may I ask how many of the worlds you've conquered are still actively rebelling?" The question caught Zexkar off guard. "Rebellions are minimal. Occasional uprisings that are quickly suppressed." "How many troops do you have stationed on each world to maintain order?" Zexkar hesitated. The truth was embarrassing. Most conquered species required minimal occupation forces after the initial submission. A few ships, some ground troops to maintain order, and the threat of retaliation usually kept populations in line. "We maintain sufficient forces to ensure compliance," he said finally. The humans exchanged glances, and several more began to chuckle. "You're about to learn something about human nature," the steel-eyed woman said. "We don't do sufficient. We do excessive, overwhelming, and completely over the top. If you occupy our world, you won't need a few troops. You'll need millions. And they'll need to watch their backs every single day for the rest of their lives." "You're threatening us?" Zexkar's voice rose. "We're educating you," Secretary General Chen corrected. "You see, humans have this peculiar trait. We actually perform better under pressure. Some of our greatest technological advances came during times of war. Our most inspiring stories are about underdogs facing impossible odds. You're not offering us a choice between freedom and slavery. You're offering us the chance to be heroes." The communications officer was frantically updating Zexkar on global human activities. Military academies were already developing new curriculum for asymmetric warfare against technologically superior opponents. Scientists were holding emergency conferences about rapid technological advancement under hostile occupation. Most bizarrely, entertainment companies were apparently buying rights to broadcast what they called the resistance effort. "This is madness," Zexkar muttered. "This is humanity," the Australian delegate said with a grin. "We once had a war that started because someone threw a defenestrated a couple of diplomats. We fought over spices, gold, and who had the right to rule empty patches of desert. We've turned every conflict into an art form. Did you really think we'd make conquering us easy?" The elderly Secretary General stood slowly, his expression becoming serious for the first time since the conversation began. "Admiral Zexkar, I want you to understand something. We're not refusing your demand out of pride or ignorance. We're refusing because we know exactly what you're offering and it's not acceptable. You would choose death over submission? We'd choose the chance to prove you wrong, Chen replied. You say resistance is futile. We say nothing is futile if you're willing to pay the price. You say your empire is invincible. We say everything that rises must fall, and we'd love to be the ones to prove it. The bridge fell silent as Zexkar processed what he was hearing. In 47 conquests, no species had ever responded like this. Fear, anger, desperation, even dignified acceptance. But never this casual dismissal of overwhelming odds, this almost eager anticipation of conflict. You do realize, he said slowly, that our technology is centuries ahead of yours? Was, the gray-haired woman corrected. Your technology was centuries ahead of ours this morning. But you've just given every human scientist, engineer, and inventor on the planet the same goal. Figure out how to fight aliens. You might be surprised how fast we work when we're motivated. Reports from his intelligence division were already confirming this. Human universities were opening their classified research to anyone who might contribute to planetary defense. Corporations were sharing proprietary technologies. Nations that had been enemies for decades were coordinating their efforts with unprecedented efficiency. Admiral, his communications officer reported quietly, we're detecting massive increases in electromagnetic activity across the planet. Power grids are being reconfigured. Manufacturing is being retooled, and their communications networks are operating at maximum capacity. How long since we made our demand? Zexkar asked. 47 minutes, sir. 47 minutes, and an entire world was reorganizing itself for war. Not in panic, not in chaos, but with the methodical determination of a species that had clearly thought about this scenario before. There's something else you should know, Secretary General Chen said, settling back into his chair. Humans have been preparing for this day for nearly a century. Every science fiction story, every military simulation, every late-night discussion about what we'd do if aliens showed up. We've been gaming out scenarios like this since before we left our own planet. Impossible. Our arrival was undetected until we entered your atmosphere. Your arrival, yes. But the possibility of hostile first contact? We've had entire government departments planning for that since the 1950s. We've got protocols, contingencies, and backup plans. Some of our best military minds have spent their entire careers thinking about how to fight an enemy with superior technology. The Australian delegate was grinning again. Plus, we've got something your other conquests probably didn't have. Which is? Each other. Humans work better in groups, especially when we're facing a common threat. You just united our entire species against a single enemy. Congratulations, Admiral. You've just done something our own leaders have been trying to accomplish for centuries. Zexkar looked around his bridge at his increasingly nervous crew. This was not proceeding according to any scenario in the Conquest Manual. The humans should be cowering, should be desperately seeking terms, should be pleading for mercy. Instead, they seemed to be treating this as some kind of intellectual exercise. What exactly are you proposing? He asked finally. We're not proposing anything, Chen replied. We're informing you. You have given us 24 hours to surrender. We're giving you the same amount of time to reconsider. Because, Admiral, if you're still in our orbit tomorrow morning with hostile intent, you're going to learn why humans have a reputation for being unreasonably stubborn. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zexkar stared at the dark screen for a long moment, trying to process what had just happened. In 47 conquests, no one had ever given him a deadline. 18 hours had passed since the humans gave their ultimatum. Admiral Zexkar hadn't slept. He stood in his command center, surrounded by intelligence reports that painted an increasingly disturbing picture of human activity. His tactical officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of what they were observing. Sir, Lieutenant Vexnor approached cautiously. The planet-wide activity has increased exponentially. We're tracking manufacturing output that shouldn't be possible with their infrastructure. Show me, Zexkar ordered. The holographic display materialized, showing Earth from orbit. Thousands of lights pulsed across the continents, indicating massive industrial activity. What should have been a world paralyzed by fear looked like a hive that had been stirred to frantic purpose. Their power consumption has increased by 300%, Vexnor continued. They're operating around-the-clock shifts in every major manufacturing center. But, sir, that's not the strangest part. Continue. They're not building conventional weapons. Our scanners detect massive quantities of rare Earth elements being processed, but not into anything we recognize. The energy signatures suggest they're attempting rapid technological advancement. Commander Thexon, Zexkar's chief science officer, materialized beside them via hologram from his laboratory ship. Admiral, I've been analyzing their communication intercepts. What we're seeing is unprecedented in the known galaxy. Explain. Every conquered species follows predictable patterns under threat. They either submit, flee, or resort to their existing military capabilities. Humans are doing something entirely different. They're accelerating their civilization. Zexkar's 4 eyes narrowed. That's impossible. Technological advancement takes decades, centuries. Under normal circumstances, yes, but humans aren't following normal circumstances. They've weaponized their own curiosity. Every university, every research facility, every corporate laboratory has been converted to a single purpose: bridging the technological gap between their civilization and ours. The display shifted to show communication intercepts from across the planet. Zexkar's universal translator worked overtime, parsing thousands of simultaneous conversations. Scientists sharing decades of classified research in minutes. Engineers reverse engineering theoretical technologies from their entertainment programs. Military strategists coordinating with theoretical physicists to explore possibilities that existed only in imagination hours earlier. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving another transmission from the planet's surface. The same governing body? No, sir. This appears to be from multiple locations simultaneously. The main screen activated, revealing not the formal council chamber from before, but a split view showing dozens of different locations, research facilities, military bases, even what appeared to be civilian workshops. Hundreds of humans looked back at them, and every single one was smiling. Secretary General Chen appeared in the central frame, but he wasn't alone. Standing beside him were individuals whose titles scrolled across the display: Director of Global Defense Initiative, Chief of Accelerated Research Division, Commander of Unified Space Forces, organizations that hadn't existed 24 hours earlier. Good morning, Admiral, Chen said pleasantly. I hope you've had time to consider our conversation yesterday. You've been busy, Zexkar observed, his voice carefully neutral. Oh, you have no idea? Laughed a woman whose identification read, Dr. Sarah Martinez, Director of Impossible Engineering. Would you like a progress report? Before Zexkar could respond, the screens shifted to show various human facilities. Factories that had produced automobiles yesterday were now manufacturing components for devices his own scientists couldn't immediately identify. Agricultural centers were growing crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. Children's toys were being converted into sophisticated computing matrices. You see, Admiral, Dr. Martinez continued, humans have this wonderful ability to improvise. When we don't have the right tools, we make them. When we don't have the right materials, we substitute. When we don't have enough time, we work faster. A new voice joined the conversation, identified as General Hassan, Unified Earth Defense. We've had an interesting 18 hours. Our theoretical physicists have been in constant communication with our engineers. Our computer scientists have been collaborating with our biologists. Our military strategists have been learning from our game designers. Game designers? Zexkar couldn't hide his confusion. Entertainment software developers, Chen explained. Humans who spend their careers designing virtual conflicts between asymmetrically matched opponents. Turns out they have quite a lot to offer when the conflict becomes real. The display showed a massive chamber where hundreds of humans worked at stations that definitely hadn't existed the day before. Holographic displays showed star maps, weapon schematics, and tactical scenarios. But what disturbed Zexkar most was how orderly it all appeared. No panic, no chaos. Just intense, focused effort. "We've made some interesting discoveries," Dr. Martinez said, pulling up what appeared to be a technical schematic. "Your shields, for instance. Very impressive technology. Deflects energy weapons, disperses kinetic impacts. But you know what's funny about shields?" Zexkar said nothing, but his tactical officers were leaning forward with obvious concern. "They're designed to stop weapons, not tools, not art, not things that aren't supposed to be dangerous." Her smile was genuinely warm, which somehow made it more unsettling. "Humans have this peculiar talent for making weapons out of things that were never meant to be weapons." Another voice joined the conversation. Dr. Chen Li, identified as Chief of Exotic Materials. "We've also been studying your ship designs from our sensor readings. Excellent engineering, very efficient, but we noticed something interesting about your hull composition." More schematics appeared on screen, showing detailed analysis of Vorthak ship construction. Zexkar's engineering team had worked for centuries to perfect those designs. They were among the most advanced in the galaxy. "Your ships are optimized for combat against other energy-based civilizations," Dr. Li continued. "But you know what you haven't optimized for? Humans throwing rocks." "Rocks?" The word came out as a growl. "Well, not exactly rocks, but the principle is the same. Kinetic weapons. Very old technology by your standards. Our railguns are primitive compared to your plasma cannons. But primitive doesn't mean ineffective." General Hassan took over the explanation. "Your shields are calibrated for energy weapons in the exajoule range. They're not designed to handle thousands of simultaneous impacts from solid projectiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed, especially when those projectiles are designed to fragment on impact." "You're bluffing," Zexkar stated, though his voice carried less certainty than before. "Are we?" Dr. Martinez asked innocently. The display shifted to show a massive construction project that definitely hadn't been there yesterday. An electromagnetic launch system stretching for kilometers, aimed skyward. "We had this crazy idea. What if we took every piece of magnetic infrastructure on the planet and linked them together? Subway systems, medical equipment, industrial machinery, even household appliances. What if we turned the entire planet into one giant railgun?" Zexkar's engineering officer was frantically checking his calculations. "Sir," he whispered urgently, "if they could coordinate electromagnetic fields on a planetary scale, the accelerative force would be substantial," Dr. Martinez finished helpfully, having apparently overheard. "Of course, we had to solve about 10,000 engineering problems to make it work. Fortunately, humans are very good at solving problems quickly when properly motivated." The Secretary General stepped forward again. "Admiral, I want you to understand something important. We're not showing you this to threaten you. We're showing you this to educate you." "Educate us about what?" "About what happens when you give humans a challenge we can't ignore. You told us resistance was futile. We heard engineering problem. You told us your technology was superior. We heard research opportunity. You told us to surrender. We heard prove you wrong." A new figure appeared on screen, identified as Professor Angela Santos, Director of Human Studies. "We've been analyzing your conquest records, Admiral. 47 successful campaigns. Very impressive. But we noticed a pattern." "Pattern?" Every species you've conquered has followed the same basic strategy. Submit to superior force, hope for reasonable treatment, try to preserve what they can of their civilization. It's logical, it's sensible. It's exactly what any rational species would do when facing overwhelming odds. Professor Santos smiled. Humans aren't rational, Admiral. We're creative. There's a difference. The display showed historical footage from Earth's past. Wars, disasters, challenges that should have destroyed human civilization. Instead, they showed humans adapting, improvising, overcoming obstacles through sheer stubborn ingenuity. When the Black Death killed a third of Europe, we didn't just survive, we came back stronger. When fascists threatened to conquer the world, we didn't submit. We invented new technologies and fought back. When we thought nuclear war might destroy our civilization, we didn't give up. We went to space. Dr. Martinez returned to the conversation. Every challenge makes us better. Every threat teaches us something new. Every impossible situation becomes a puzzle to solve. What exactly are you saying? Zexkar demanded. We're saying thank you, Secretary General Chen replied. Thank you for giving us the greatest challenge in human history. Thank you for forcing us to unite as a species. Thank you for motivating us to advance our technology by centuries in a single day. General Hassan pulled up what appeared to be a tactical readout. As of right now, we have 17 different potential solutions to your shield technology. We have 34 different approaches to asymmetric warfare against superior opponents. We have fusion reactors that didn't exist yesterday powering weapons that were theoretical this morning. And Admiral, Dr. Martinez added cheerfully, we're just getting started. We've got 5 more hours until your deadline expires. Humans can accomplish a lot in 5 hours when we put our minds to it. The transmission paused, and Zexkar found himself staring at hundreds of human faces, all looking back at him with the same expression. Not fear, not anger, not desperation, anticipation. They were looking forward to this. There's one more thing you should know, Secretary General Chen said softly. We've been monitoring your communications. We know this conquest was supposed to be routine for you. Your crew's expected to be celebrating victory and heading home by now. Zexkar's communications officer confirmed this with a subtle nod. Human monitoring technology shouldn't have been capable of intercepting Vorthak transmissions, but apparently yesterday's technological limitations no longer applied. Your soldiers are brave, Admiral. Your technology is impressive. Your empire is mighty. But you made one critical error. Which is? You told humans we couldn't win. Chen's smile was gentle, almost sympathetic. The fastest way to get humans to do something is to tell them it can't be done. The most effective way to motivate us is to prove we're outmatched. The best way to unite us is to give us a common enemy. Professor Santos reappeared on screen. We've run psychological profiles on your species, Admiral. Vorthak are warriors, but you're traditional warriors. You fight with honor, follow established protocols, rely on proven strategies. You're not adaptable under pressure. How dare you? It's not an insult, she continued calmly. It's observation. Your success comes from overwhelming superiority applied consistently. But what happens when superiority isn't enough? What happens when the enemy doesn't follow the script? The answer hung in the air, unspoken but understood. 47 conquests had followed the same pattern because 47 species had responded predictably. The Vorthak had never faced an opponent who treated invasion as an opportunity for improvement. We'll give you credit, Dr. Martinez said, checking what appeared to be a countdown timer. You've accelerated human development by at least 2 centuries in the past 18 hours. Our children are going to grow up in a world with technologies that were pure fantasy yesterday. 4 hours and 17 minutes remaining, Admiral, General Hassan announced. I don't suppose you'd consider withdrawing. It would save everyone a lot of trouble. Zexkar looked around his bridge at his increasingly nervous crew. This was supposed to be a routine conquest of a primitive world. Instead, He was facing an enemy who had spent less than a day turning their entire civilization into a weapon specifically designed to defeat him. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Zexkar stood motionless, processing what he had witnessed. In 47 conquests, no species had ever turned the threat of invasion into an opportunity for evolution. His communications officer approached hesitantly. "Sir, orders?" For the first time in his military career, Admiral Zexkar had no idea what those orders should be. The final hour had arrived. Admiral Zexkar stood on his bridge, watching the primitive blue planet that had become the greatest challenge of his military career. His crew worked quietly at their stations, but he could sense their unease. 24 hours ago, they had expected to be heading home with news of another successful conquest. Instead, they faced an enemy unlike anything in Imperial records. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "planetary activity has reached unprecedented levels. We're detecting energy signatures that exceed theoretical maximums for their technological base." "Show me." The holographic display materialized, revealing Earth in all its transformed glory. The planet pulsed with electromagnetic activity. Massive structures that had been constructed in mere hours dotted every continent. Most disturbing of all, the space around Earth was no longer empty. Hundreds of objects were moving in perfect coordination, creating a defensive grid that definitely hadn't existed yesterday. "Those objects," Zexkar studied the display. "What are they?" "Unknown, sir. They appear to be constructed from repurposed civilian infrastructure. Orbital platforms, communication satellites, even space junk has been collected and somehow weaponized." Commander Thexan appeared via hologram, his expression grim. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of human activities. What we're observing violates several known laws of technological development." "Explain." "Civilizations advance at predictable rates. New technologies require time for research, development, testing, and implementation. The humans have compressed what should be decades of progress into 24 hours. How? By ignoring conventional development protocols entirely. Instead of perfecting individual technologies, they've created hybrid systems using existing infrastructure. Instead of extensive testing, they're implementing theoretical designs directly. Instead of gradual deployment, they've converted their entire civilization simultaneously." The communications array activated, and Secretary General Chen appeared on screen. But this time, he wasn't in a government building or command center. He stood in what appeared to be a massive space station, surrounded by viewports that showed Earth below and the void of space beyond. "Good morning, Admiral," Chen said pleasantly. "I trust you've had time to consider our previous conversations." "That facility didn't exist yesterday," Zexkar stated. "No, it didn't. Humans built it overnight. We had the components scattered across the planet in various space programs. We just needed motivation to put them together quickly." Chen gestured to the viewports behind him. "Beautiful view, isn't it? We can see your fleet from here." Zexkar's tactical display confirmed it. The humans had somehow constructed and launched a space station in less than 24 hours. His intelligence division was frantically trying to determine how such rapid construction was possible. "We've been busy." Dr. Martinez appeared beside Chen, looking remarkably cheerful for someone facing invasion by a superior alien force. "Would you like to see what we've accomplished?" Without waiting for an answer, the display split to show multiple views of human activity. Massive electromagnetic launchers stretched across continents, all aimed skyward. Orbital platforms moved in perfect formation around the planet. Most unsettling of all, millions of humans worked with calm efficiency at tasks that should have required years of training. "The interesting thing about humans," Dr. Martinez continued, "is that we're very good at learning when we need to. Your ultimatum gave every person on the planet the same motivation: learn how to fight aliens or cease to exist." General Hassan joined the conversation from what appeared to be a massive underground command center. "We've run combat simulations for the past 6 hours, Admiral. Our conclusion is that your fleet, while impressive, is designed for conventional warfare against conventional enemies." "And humans are not conventional?" "Humans are insane," Professor Santos said, appearing from another location entirely. "In the best possible way. We don't follow logical military doctrine because logic is predictable, and predictable strategies lose wars." The display shifted to show detailed analysis of the Vorthak fleet. Every ship, every weapon system, every tactical capability had been studied and catalogued. Zexkar realized with growing unease that humans had somehow scanned his entire fleet with technology that shouldn't have existed. "Your flagship, the Dominion's Fist, is particularly interesting." Dr. Lee appeared on screen, reviewing technical schematics. "Magnificent engineering. Your shields could deflect anything in our previous arsenal. Your weapons could reduce our cities to ash. Your armor could withstand sustained bombardment from conventional forces." "Could." Zexkar's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Past tense, Admiral. Because your ship was designed to fight other spacefaring civilizations. It wasn't designed to fight a planet." The implications hit Zexkar like a physical blow. "You're going to use planetary resources as weapons." "We're going to use everything as weapons," Dr. Martinez said cheerfully. "Our magnetic infrastructure, our industrial capacity, our orbital debris, our atmospheric composition, our gravitational field, everything." Secretary General Chen stepped forward. "Admiral, we need you to understand something important. This isn't about territorial defense anymore. This is about human nature." "Which is?" "We don't know when to quit. We don't accept impossible odds. We don't surrender when outmatched." Chen's expression became serious. "But most importantly, we learn from every challenge." Professor Santos pulled up historical data. "Every time humans have faced extinction, we've emerged stronger. Every time we've encountered superior technology, we've adapted it. Every time someone has told us we couldn't do something, we've found a way to do it better." "Your empire has conquered 47 worlds," General Hassan added. "Impressive record, but those conquests have made you predictable. You follow the same strategy because it always works. You expect the same responses because you've always received them." Dr. Martinez was practically bouncing with excitement. "But Admiral, you've never conquered a species that treats your invasion as a learning experience." The display showed real-time footage of human activities across the planet. Children were learning advanced mathematics that would help calculate trajectories for weapons that hadn't existed that morning. Artists were designing camouflage patterns for technologies borrowed from science fiction. Farmers were growing crops specifically engineered to support rapid industrial production. "We've had time to study your previous conquests," Secretary General Chen continued. "Every species you've defeated made the same mistake. They tried to fight you with their existing capabilities. And you're not? We're fighting you with capabilities we're inventing as we go. Every hour we're becoming a different civilization. Every challenge you present we're turning into an opportunity for advancement." The countdown timer appeared on screen. 30 minutes remaining. "There's something else you should know," Dr. Santos said, her tone becoming more serious. "We've been in contact with some of your previous conquests." Zexkar's blood ran cold. "Impossible. Imperial communication networks are secured." "We're secured," Dr. Lee corrected. "Human computer specialists have been very busy. Did you know that 17 of your conquered worlds are still actively resisting Imperial rule? Small scale, careful not to trigger massive retaliation, but definitely ongoing." General Hassan pulled up communications logs. Fascinating conversations. Each world thought they were alone in their resistance. They didn't realize other worlds were having the same problems with Imperial occupation. "You're interfering with internal Imperial affairs," Zexkar growled. "We're networking," Dr. Martinez replied happily. Humans are very good at building communities, and it turns out your conquered species have a lot of useful information about Imperial tactics, technology, and weaknesses. The display showed a growing network of communication between Earth and dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Information was flowing in all directions, human innovation spreading outward, alien knowledge flowing inward. 20 minutes, Admiral, Secretary General Chen announced. I don't suppose you'd consider a different approach? Such as negotiation, trade, cultural exchange, any of the dozens of nonviolent ways civilizations can interact. Zexkar studied the humans on his screen. 24 hours ago, they had been a primitive species barely capable of leaving their own planet. Now they were coordinating resistance across multiple star systems and had somehow advanced their technology by centuries. What are you proposing? He asked finally. Partnership, Chen replied simply. Your empire has great strength but limited adaptability. Humanity has unlimited adaptability but currently limited reach. Together, we could accomplish things neither of us could achieve alone. The empire doesn't negotiate with primitives. Then don't think of us as primitives, Dr. Martinez suggested. Think of us as a rapidly advancing civilization that has just spent 24 hours specifically preparing to fight your empire. Professor Santos added, Admiral, your choice isn't between conquest and retreat anymore. Your choice is between partnership and war with an enemy that gets stronger every day you delay. The tactical display showed an alarming development. More human constructions were coming online every minute. Defensive systems that hadn't existed an hour ago. Weapon platforms that challenged fundamental assumptions about human capabilities. Most concerning of all, other ships were appearing in the system, crude by Imperial standards, but numerous and coordinated. Those vessels, Zexkar pointed at the display. Where did they come from? We built them, General Hassan said matter-of-factly. Turns out, when you have unlimited motivation and planetary resources, spacecraft construction becomes an engineering problem rather than an economic one. Impossible. Ship construction requires months, years. For ships built to Imperial standards, yes. For ships built to human standards using human improvisation techniques, about 18 hours from concept to launch. Dr. Lee appeared with technical specifications. They're not pretty, Admiral. No elegant curves, no advanced materials, no redundant systems. But they work, they're armed, and there are a lot of them. 10 minutes, Dr. Martinez announced cheerfully. This is exciting. We're about to find out whether human stubbornness can overcome alien superiority. Secretary General Chen raised his hand for quiet. Admiral Zexkar, I'm going to make one final offer. Withdraw your fleet, and we'll pretend this was a diplomatic first contact mission that went slightly wrong. Your empire can establish peaceful relations with Earth, and everyone benefits. And if we refuse? Chen's expression became grimly determined. Then you'll discover what happens when humans stop pretending to be a primitive civilization and start acting like what we've actually become, the most dangerously innovative species in this part of the galaxy. Zexkar looked around his bridge at his crew. For the first time in 47 conquests, he saw doubt in their eyes. Not doubt in their abilities, but doubt in the wisdom of their mission. Sir, his communications officer reported quietly, we're receiving similar ultimatums from the other worlds in our occupation zones. It appears human communication techniques are spreading. The countdown reached 0. For a long moment, space around Earth was silent. Then, simultaneously, every human defensive system activated. The planet itself seemed to come alive with purpose. Electromagnetic launchers fired in perfect coordination. Orbital platforms moved into attack formation. The crude human fleet accelerated toward Imperial positions, but most significantly, signals were broadcasting across the galaxy, carrying a simple message to every conquered world. This is how you fight back. Admiral Zexkar stared at the tactical display showing thousands of incoming projectiles, each one designed specifically to overcome Vorthak defenses. Behind him, his crew waited for orders. Around him, alarms indicated that Imperial forces across the galaxy were reporting similar uprisings. In 47 conquests, no enemy had ever transformed the concept of invasion into an opportunity for galactic revolution. The humans hadn't just refused to surrender. They had weaponized the very act of resistance. For the first time in his career, Admiral Zexkar gave an order he had never expected to give. "Signal the fleet. We're withdrawing to a safe distance to open negotiations." As his ships pulled back from Earth, Zexkar realized that humans had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had turned a single day's notice into a civilization-changing event that would reshape the balance of power across multiple star systems. The Vorthak Empire had spent centuries conquering the galaxy. The humans had spent 24 hours teaching the galaxy how to fight back, and they were just getting started.